Good evening, everyone. Thursday, the 9th of September, 2021. Captain's log, 8 p.m. What the fuck's going on in the world? Anyway, what the fuck's going on is we've got a really cool interview tonight with Sami Locke from the Gold Coast. She's got a really interesting story. So yeah, let's invite her into the room and we'll see what tonight brings. So I'm just going to do all my my technical stuff and then we'll be off. I hope everyone's well. Hey, Rich from, I think, from the UK, from Birmingham. Sami, how are you?
Hiya.
Good, good. How's your day been?
Yeah, really good. Just did some tats today, trained this morning. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I tell you what, when I was growing up, there used to be these TV ads that used to like advertise as Queensland. Beautiful one day, perfect the next. And I'm pretty sure it's still that way.
That's pretty much what it's like. It's we're so lucky up here. The weather's always amazing. So yeah, we're super stoked.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Yeah. My mum, actually, I worked on the Goldie 15, 16, 17 years ago for a couple of years when I came back from overseas, and I loved it. It's such a cool spot. My mum's in Southport, and my dad's in Beenleigh near Brizzy. So, yeah, it's a great part of the world.
We've got the beach right there. We've got the hinterland that way. Brisbane 1 hour, Byron 1 hour the other way. It's great. Yeah, I can't imagine.
And most of all, you've got a man that rides a bareback horse on the border during protests. Like, come on.
Braveheart shit. Hey, you can't make that up. That's insane.
But he came back for more. Like, wow.
So wild. I mean, it's on theme with everything else that's been going on, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's madness. It's madness. All right, so thanks so much for tonight and everything, and we'll start off finding out a little bit about your sort of tattoo journey and stuff. So I believe you're originally from Dubbo. Is that correct?
I am Dubbo, born and raised. So
awesome.
I lived all my life up until I was 18, and then I just kind of was like, let's get the fuck out of here. Move up to something bigger and better. So it was a great place to grow up, but there just wasn't a whole lot of creative opportunity there. At the time, I kind of realized, it took me a while to realize what it was that I was lacking. And it wasn't until I came up here that I started to understand that it was an artistic scene that I really needed. So much prefer living up here now. Cool.
So with all that, like growing up in Dubbo, were you into art and that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I was always drawn. But I was always drawing and everything like that. It's not something, I think there as well, because there wasn't a big creative scene. It wasn't something I grew up thinking I could really make a career out of, because there wasn't a lot around, you know, everyone, there just wasn't a lot of availability for that sort of thing. Like there was one tattoo shop in the whole town. So yeah, it wasn't, you know, swimming with opportunities.
Cool. So what were your first memories of tattoos and that sort of thing, and what then inspired you to think maybe this is what I want to do?
So probably just seeing that one single tattoo shop over the opposite side from where I lived. You know, it had a couple of artists in there. It had all the Cherry Creek flash lined up on the walls. So and I did a whole lot of other exposure to different styles until I moved away and sort of started to branch out and see other stuff.
Cool.
You know, I just remember my parents going in, getting a couple of little tats here and there, but it wasn't really, like, it wasn't a big tattooed population or anything. Until I moved up to the Gold Coast that I started to see a bit more of that. So it was a bit later for me. But art was definitely always something I was really interested in. My parents are both quite, my dad is real clever with just like making everything, and like he's real hands, stuff like that. And my mum's done every craft under the sun that you could imagine. So having that sort of influence.
Cool.
But didn't realize that it could, you know, be a lifestyle and a career later on.
It's cool. So I imagine mum being quite handy, like as a young girl you had plenty of trips to Spotlight.
Oh yeah, yeah. Stationery section for me. Pens, pencils, and anything to get my hands on. That's where I was
Yeah,
thriving. Sure. I remember
yeah,
doing art lessons when I was younger and stuff like that. It was
yeah,
yeah, great. It was always something I just any minute I'd sit down and be scribbling and stuff. So
yeah.
it's good. It's the same now. And my auntie was so my mum's like quite crafty, but my auntie was really good at drawing, and now my niece
Okay.
is quite good at drawing. So it's interesting to see it kind of skip down
Yeah,
auntie to
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, cool, cool. So, all right then, what was your first tattoo?
uh, probably one I should have thought a bit better about. I got
I'm
it
covered in them.
there. It was just like I turned 18. I was like, right, let's do this thing.
Yeah,
And I just, like some color swirly stuff.
yeah,
Well, it will get covered eventually.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Can I ask who did it and what studio it was at if you don't
Um,
remember who did it?
I can't remember his name. It was the
Yeah,
one studio that was there the whole, like my whole growing
yeah, okay,
up
yeah, yeah.
now, but I think at the time it was called Outer Limits.
Yeah, it was,
It
yeah,
is forever. So yeah, it
yeah.
was one of the did it for me.
Okay, cool, cool. And then from then, in between that time and then, say, moving to the Gold Coast, is the Gold Coast where you started your tattoo career?
Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay,
started
cool.
2013, I believe. I
Yep,
started in a shop in Coolangatta.
yep.
So just main strip of Coolangatta there, right
Yep.
opposite the beach. Like you said, that
Anchors Inc. or was it Traces?
1111.
Oh,
So
okay, with Brandon Kelly.
yes, yeah, that's right.
Okay,
So
cool, cool. So
um,
can you tell us about the process of how you sort of got the opportunity to start there and that sort of thing and what the apprenticeship was like?
so I had a job just doing admin, which I hated. It was just sucking the soul out of me.
Yep,
He was doing some downsizing, and because I was admin, I was one of the first to go. It was good for me. I was like, yep, sweet, I'm happy to leave.
yep,
Um, I had just finished my makeup course. I did a makeup diploma. So I was
yep,
like, this is a good opportunity for me to use that and go into a role doing makeup. And
yep.
I was doing a lot of makeup on the weekends for like creative shoots and stuff like that, just to stay creative and keep my mind
Yeah,
doing the
yep,
makeup, a lot of props and sets
yep,
and stuff, which was really cool.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, after I lost that job, I went and got tattooed by one of my mates, and I'd recently started drawing a little bit too. And
yep.
he was like, if you've lost your job, why don't you try and get a tattoo apprenticeship? And I was
Oh,
like,
cool.
what do you mean? Like, is that actually
Yeah, this can happen.
like, can I do that? So, yeah, I was like, okay. So I just thought I
Yep,
was looking for makeup jobs here and there, but not
yep,
super trying to do it. So I
yep,
started getting a portfolio together.
yep,
Yeah, and then I did a portrait of a girl actually who was pretty well known in like Brisbane, Gold Coast sort of
yep,
area. She was like very heavily tattooed, like
yep,
you know, she'd always do creative shoots and stuff. And
yep.
I think, posted it and said, someone like give this girl an approval.
Ah,
And then that's when I got in touch with Braden and yeah, went and saw him and he put me
yep,
on a trial and yeah, that was it. Then I
yeah,
ended
cool.
years there with him
Yep.
until
Yeah, awesome. Because I know, I believe that shop was sort of around that time, one of the first sort of private studios opening up.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
definitely like it was one of the first shops I think that sort of started to
Yeah.
have that about it
Yeah.
that was a bit more custom and stuff like that. So and I think I got
Yeah.
in at a really good time. That's when all the licensing and things started to come in. So
Yep.
it felt a little bit safer and
For
things
sure. Yeah.
sort of feeling quite as volatile as they were once.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, in
Yeah.
a good
Yeah. Awesome. So what was sort of like the structure of your apprenticeship? I imagine your admin skills came in handy and then, you know, your other creative talents and that sort of thing. Like what was some of the, like say, for example, your portfolio that you were building to start tattooing, was it a cross section of lots of different styles? or was
Well,
it like portraiture?
at the time, so when I first, when my mate said, why don't you go for an apprenticeship? I was basically doing just charcoal realism, which is
Yep.
funny. I've never tattooed realism ever.
Yep.
And I want to, it scares the hell out of me. So I sort of get a few trad designs together, and it was so
Yep.
hard. Trad just, it didn't make sense to me at the time, and I
Yep.
was trying to figure it out, but it was super
Yep.
tough. So it's
Yep.
funny now back that I started as realism. Trad
Yep.
was hard, and now it's the opposite. I'm like, I don't
Yep.
touch trads where.
Yep. Yep. So what were like some of the first tattoos you actually did?
So the very first one I did was, it was a tiny little dagger on one of our clients, like one of Braden's clients,
Yep.
like the foot. I remember he just sat a whole day getting this beautiful sleeve done, and then
Yep.
he's like, "Hell, I'll cop a tat." It took me like
I'm
an
not done yet.
hour to stencil this tiny little thing, and it
Yep.
probably took about 3 hours to tattoo it. The poor guy was probably suffering.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to see what that looks like now. I bet it's trash, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, that's most feet tattoos, so you know
yeah.
that's what happens.
Yeah,
So I imagine the nerves were peaking, and
I was
it's
terrified
yeah.
because he like, "Yep, okay, you're doing a tattoo today," and I was like, "Hang on, what? What do you
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
Prepare for this?" So
I'm not
yeah,
ready.
it was
Yep.
a stressy day, but
Yep.
it's good looking back at it now. He
Yep.
kind of, you know, was keeping an eye on me, but wasn't too close
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think that's yeah. I think that's a good way. Like, you know, like, yeah, keeping a good eye rather than like micromanaging and all the rest of it. And you know, you sort of learn by your mistakes and by observation and that sort of thing. So that sounds really cool.
yeah, I
Yeah.
learned better rather than being sort of watched over too much. It's sort of
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like my first tattoo was like, the guy that started me off, he's like, all right, there was this drunk that was getting tattooed all the time, and he's like pissed out of his brain. He's like, all right, give the boy a go. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's set the machines up and just gone, don't touch the dial, don't touch the tube depth, anything. Just off you go, put your foot on the pedal, and I'll be back in half an hour. And it was like, oh, all right. But, you know, and then he came back and you're like, oh, did a bit better than I thought. So the confidence is there, and you slowly, you know, you go from there. But then, but then you're like, oh, what's mashed potato? Oh, you just chewed the skin right up. Oh, okay. You can't keep going over it forever. So
yeah.
yeah.
I had to pull back a bit because I reckon I lined that dagger about 16 times.
Well, you know, yeah, that's what has to happen sometimes. So how long were you with Braden again for at that studio?
So that was 3 years I was there.
Yep.
So I think it would have been bang on 3 years actually, because it was June 2013 started.
Yeah, cool.
And then he sold the studio in 2016, and then I went from there to Whiskey Lane up in Robina.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
On the Gold Coast, and I was the next 4 years after that.
Cool. Just before we get on to like Whiskey Lane and stuff, so in that 3 years, like, what was the progression of your tattooing from doing, you know, little things, and were you starting to develop a style, or were you just, I'll do anything? What was the sort of the way it went? Because
we were in the main section of Cooley, and we were opposite above, and then above the backpackers. So we had, there was a lot of traffic. It was a big open studio, a lot from the main road. So that was opportunity, getting a lot of walk-ins, because then you were kind of on the spot, had to figure it out, using a lot of different styles, and, you know, doing fine stuff, doing trad stuff. It was good because we were right in the middle of the Cooley Rocks On festival that happened there each year. So we had a lot of days, and a lot of people come through during that time. So kind of just deep end and just swim like hell and learn as quickly. And then I started to sort of like develop a bit of a style. Like, I knew I wanted to do more traditional vibe. And then I started to lean more towards the sort of feminine style stuff, like flowers, super bright color and all that sort of
Yep.
stuff. And yeah, kind of just rolled with that style and have stuck with it ever since.
Yeah, amazing. So in that formative 3 years, were you getting tattooed by other artists? Who were some of your heroes back then that you were looking up to and that sort of thing?
Oh, there was so many
Yeah.
around, many that I kept discovering.
Yep.
Probably number one person that I always looked up to for their style, even though I wasn't going in that direction.
Yep.
Emily Rose Murray. She
Yep.
was
Amazing.
the first tattooer that I really discovered sort of, you know, once I left Dubbo and came up here. I think she was actually an apprentice at the time.
Wow.
Saw some of her work and I just remember thinking like, that's what it was that I was looking
Yep.
for. That's the sort
Yep.
of art I felt like I was missing.
Yep.
She's always been a big inspiration. And
Yeah,
then,
cool.
you know, people like Claire Clarity and Melanie
Yep.
Milne and ladies just killing it with that sort of
Yep.
style. They were
Yep.
the ones sort of drawn to for inspiration to continue.
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, so good. So then how did Whiskey Lane come about? Like just sort of put the word out, or was it like Instagram or through connections of friends, that sort of thing? Because Whiskey Lane, even though, you know, I haven't been on the Goldie for years, I always keep a good eye on things and try and be up to date. It is still an amazing shop, but it was when you worked there, I imagine it was still relatively new-ish.
It was, I think I started, so they had a flash day for their birthday every year, and I think it was turning 4 when
Nice. Yep.
over 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah, cool.
But there was a couple of the boys that were there had opened a shop, so
Yep.
they met together. So I knew that there was a couple of vacant spots,
Yep.
and I remember I was still technically an apprentice at the time
Yep.
that closed. So I was like, oh, I don't know if they're going to want to take me on. Like, am I going to be alive for them?
No,
But,
I would say you should have just awarded yourself your apprenticeship done.
yeah. So I was like, oh, can I do that? I don't know if I can sign myself up.
Yeah.
When I approached Adam about it, one of the owners, Adam Smith,
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, come in, we'll meet you, we'll see how it
Yep.
goes. And yeah, I went in, started with those guys and stayed there for 4 years. It was a great crew, great shop.
Yep. Yep.
One of the traditional shops on the coast.
100%.
So it was
Yep.
definitely more appealing to me to go to a place like that was going to
Yep.
help develop my style. And it really did. I feel like as soon as I got there,
Yep.
I just got way more into the groove of my style and stuff. So it was probably the best I could have ever made going there.
Yeah, awesome. And I imagine as well, like I used to work at Skin Effects right in the heart of Surfers Paradise.
Yeah.
So same as Coolangatta, like it's so many tourists and that sort of thing. So like Robina, it's more of like a local clientele, I would have imagined. And
yeah.
you know, and that's the best way I've found myself from bouncing around over the years. If you sit in one spot and you tattoo locals, that's when the magic starts to happen. You know, people refer to you and they know where to find you and all this sort of stuff. I imagine that's fair to say with you.
Yeah, for sure. It was a little bit scary too, making that step back, going from somewhere that had so much walk-in traffic and a lot of street to something that, like, Whiskey still gets a lot of that, but it was a little bit. So I was like, oh, you know, I'm not super developed and well known as an artist yet, so I wasn't sure, you know, what my bookings were going to be like and stuff. But it kind of just went the other way, and I started getting more bookings and more bookings for my style as well. So I think it's a bit to do with the shop, and that everyone at the shop was doing a bit more custom stuff and more trad stuff. They were the trad shop that people would go to. So
Nice.
and it just built, I had definitely had nothing to worry about.
Yeah, cool. How did your, like I know myself, like I was a street shop tattooer for 15 odd years. And when I transitioned, you know, into like a custom artist, I found it difficult for quite a few years. Like I was doing it, you know, pre-Instagram, all that sort of stuff. So I found it hard to like go, oh, I'm not just going to draw it up on the spot, or I've got to prepare things. And, you know, you're booked out for this much in advance and you freak out a little bit. What if I get sick or something? I'm fucked. And, you know, all this sort of thing. Like, how did you adapt from that sort of street shop, you know, environment to then getting like busy quite quickly?
I kind of,
busier.
I preferred it. I
Yeah.
feel I I kind of thrived on that. So it was just like I don't mind doing like a hard hustle for a while and just
Yeah.
working super solid and until I get burnt, I can't work anymore. So
Yeah.
it kind of pushed me to just be like, I have no choice. I just got to
Yeah.
draw and tat and that's
Yeah.
what it did. It's such a good thing to happen for me. Just
Yeah.
it just gave me the drive and I
Yeah.
just had to. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
actually really
I
wasn't too
think like what? Sorry, I missed that last bit. You broke out.
it wasn't too overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
it was
Good. Good.
I was like, nah, I can do this. So you just gotta
Yeah, because like 100%, I think you're just all consumed, and you've got this fire lit inside you, and you're like, I can do this. I want to improve. I can draw inspiration from everywhere. I've got the client base. Like, it's exciting. Like, as tattooers, we're so fortunate and so lucky to, you know,
absolutely.
and obviously it does have its days where you wake up and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to work today, but you snap into gear and you do it, and you do it well. But, you know, it's a very fortunate thing, especially to be able to go and do your art on customers that love it and they're stoked. It's a special thing.
Still hasn't worn off, hey, that like
Yeah.
people trust us to get something that we've made for them and they're gonna wear it forever. Like some forget about it and then other days I'm like, oh shit, that's what people let us do and it's crazy.
Yeah.
We get to do what we do.
Totally. As corny as it sounds, I've been tattooing over 30 years and I'm loving it now more than ever. And it's and I think there's an old saying I got told, you know, if you're good to tattooing, it'll be good to you. And, you know, if you're not, we know the consequences. So yeah. So when you're at Whiskey Lane as well, were you starting to like, I don't know, were you doing conventions with them or anything like that, or doing them on your own?
Convention. To this day, I've never done a convention.
Yeah. Have you gone and visited one?
Yes, but I think it was before I was tattooing, so I don't know if that counts.
Yeah.
But I was like, right, the boys at Whiskey, just before I'd started there, did the New Zealand convention together, and they and everyone else had told me how brilliant it was. So I was like, I want that for my first convention.
Yeah,
and I was
amazing.
Yeah, obviously that didn't happen. So, but one day I'm going to get over there. And
I don't think this year will happen, even though you Queenslanders are free as a bird to an extent. I think next year will be the one, obviously. So, well, not obviously, but hopefully. So,
yeah, I've heard such good things about it, so I'd love that to be my first one.
Yeah, amazing. Were you branching out, doing any sort of guest spots or getting tattooed by? Was your collection growing? Were you getting tattooed by people you admire to try and pick their brain and learn?
Yeah, doing a little bit of both. So I did some guest spots. I was doing a few guest spots in Melbourne. Actually, I went and got tattooed by Emily Rose. She was doing
epic. That was one of my questions. So cool. Yeah.
So I was flying back and forth to Melbourne, getting tattooed by her. Well, I may as well. I was so doing guest spots and stuff, but I've got to get out of my comfort zone and go to some other shops and get experience.
Yeah. When you were getting tattooed by Emily, where was she working at the time?
So at the place that she's at now, so her private studio out in Eltham, I believe it's called, just out in the Melbourne. Cool. I was guesting a fair bit with the Grand Illusion crew.
Nice, so amazing.
My partner was working there, and he recommended them as a best studio there, and any guests come and go. So I was like, well, if people are constantly guesting there, it must be a pretty good place. I kept going back. The environment at that shop was just incredible. It was the best fun. One of my trips went and guested with Claire and her girls there at Hot Copper, which was incredible as well. Big inspiration. So, and everyone there phenomenal. So that was brilliant as well. I can't wait to go see their new studio too.
Yeah. So cool. What about, say, like from a technical point of view, were you using coils? Were you using rotaries? Like, you know, what was your sort of setup? Was it evolving? And has it evolved? What are you using now?
So at the start, I was all coils,
Yep.
and I got my hands on a Bishop for
Yep.
shade. Since then, I've stuck with it. It's just so
Yep.
light,
Yeah,
easy.
great machines. Yep.
So using that for probably 5 years, I would say.
Cool.
Now my liner setups, I've got a sender for my
Yep.
large, which is just the most perfect machine.
Yep.
I can't be changing that one anytime soon because it's brilliant.
Yep.
And then little tiny Luckies as my
Yeah,
fine line.
cool. Cool.
That's
Awesome.
all, like my wrist just couldn't handle it.
And yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like I switched to like rotaries for quite a long time. I've only just started using coils again because all the years it does take a toll on your wrists.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
thankfully now machines are a lot lighter,
Yeah.
smoother, better. You don't have to worry about tuning them so much, all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's good.
Set up at the moment. Like I've
Yep.
tried a few different things, but the three, I use those three every single day, and they
Yep.
just me. So I'll stick with them while ever they're working.
Yeah, totally. On that note, what are your favorite like your needle setup, like your liners and shaders? Like what's the magic formula?
Oh well, there's been a bit of a debacle with that because my favorite liners have been out of stock for like 6.
Yeah,
I'm desperately trying to get my hands on some Tatsol NBs, and they've just been nowhere to
yeah,
be found. Found a
yeah,
couple of gives. I've got a
yeah,
few of those people. Tried to get my hands on those, and they were also sold
yeah.
out. But
Out of curiosity, which Tatsol MBs, which liner group again?
the sevens is my favorite.
Okay, cool. Because there's a company here in Sydney called Just Tats, and they do a needle brand called I think it's Rose Tattoo Needles, and they're very similar to Tatsol NBs. So I'll have a word with someone I know and see if they can send you a care package.
I've been desperately trying to find some alternatives because I tried a few different ones and they just weren't quite perfect. So
Yeah,
yeah, I've got I had a bunch of 8s there and they're good, but they're just a fraction too. So
yeah.
I got my delivery. I bought probably a few too many boxes because
No, not at all. Not at all. Because the world's in a supply chain like nightmare at the moment. You've got to do it. So,
it's been a hot
yeah.
So one of my friends recently got me onto some Black Claw hella tight 4s, and those things are just a dream to use. They're better than any other fine needle I've used before. I don't know. All I know is they work for me, so I'm sticking to it.
And yeah, exactly. And that's all that matters. As long as it works with you, that's it. And like it should, the actual act of tattooing, the craftsmanship part of it should just be easy and fluid. And that's sort of when the magic starts to happen. Like you don't have to worry about, all this other stuff. So it's good.
So much harder if the setup's not perfect. Like I've been using needles. They're good needles, but they're just not exactly the ones that I like. So that little bit harder. Like tattooing's already hard enough. We want it to be as streamlined where we
100%. Like that, I got tattooing described to me years ago is like tattooing is so simple, it's difficult.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. And figure it out, fuck it out, scrap it all and stuff.
Totally. All right. So let's go say you've done 3 years with Brandon and then like 4 years at Whiskey Lane, all that sort of stuff. You're getting tattooed by Emily. What sort of, or when did the thought pattern maybe come along to, wanting to do your own studio and that sort of thing? And, can you talk about how that transition, or were you somewhere else after Whiskey Lane?
No, so it was 1111 straight on to Whiskey Lane. And then I just got to a point where I guess it was around that 4-year mark. Seems to be a bit of a pattern. Once they've been somewhere that long, they kind of get itchy bit and want to move on. And there wasn't really, like, there's a lot of great studios around the coast, but I was like, there's no way I'd prefer to be than Whiskey. But I just felt urged to do something else. And, really good, solid client base and heaps of amazing clients that I knew would come with me. So, like, fuck it. Let's just...
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's scary to think about doing it. And then
Yep.
I think it was like a few weeks before COVID really hit too.
Oh,
So
wow.
I decided before that, but
Yep.
then I think it was within the month actually. So I decided that I was going to do it. But then as COVID was sort of creeping up,
Yep.
it obviously felt a little bit sketchy. And I was like, oh,
100%.
so,
Yep.
but yeah, I just stuck it out. And it actually worked out quite well because during the lockdown period, I spent most of that time setting up the shop. So
Nice.
I couldn't work anyway, so I didn't have to worry
Yep.
about booking stuff like that. And I was just
Yep.
working on it in secret for a little while.
Yeah, cool.
Announcement that we were going to open up. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Hey, I've got COVID brain with the lockdown. So you guys have just done one major one. How long was that one for? Is that when we were all in this together?
No, so we had the big one at the start.
Yeah. It was like maybe March.
Yeah, so we shut
Yep.
down in March, and then I started tattooing again in September, but I think everything
Yep.
opened up about a month before that, so around
Yep.
August.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. How
We
did you go about? Sorry to jump in. How did you go about like finding a studio and an area and that sort of thing? Was it difficult or relatively easy?
I was actually, so I'm in my studio now. It's literally 3 minutes from my house, so it's so
Nice.
close. I remember we didn't even look online.
Yep.
My partner and I went to have lunch, and we were driving back home, and instead we normally turn left, and I was like, can we just go that way for a minute?
Yep.
I don't know, I want to have a look at that little row of shops. And
Yep.
we pulled up and we looked at one, and we were like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then my partner was like, oh, the one next door is vacant as well. So we're like peering right up to the windows trying to see in, because the mirrors, it's all mirrored out the
Yep.
front window. And it looked pretty good. It was a good size. It was nice
Yep.
and open. And yeah, we called the real estate guy the next day, and this
Yep.
is the shop that we're in. So yeah, it was really weird how it came together.
That's cool. That's cool. And one of the common threads I've found through a lot of these interviews is like when opportunity knocks, you're probably better off to take it because something good's going to happen from it rather than be too hesitant, and, you hear a lot of people say like, the only things you're going to regret when you're old is what you didn't do,
Exactly.
So I think it's a good thing to just jump in the deep end. Like, back in the day, in Coolangatta Tattoo and all those people, off you go. You've just got to do it because being hesitant isn't going to pay off in the long run.
Yeah, I've always felt like even the wrong decision, it will eventually be the right one, because all the wrong decisions I've made in my past,
Yep.
I am now, so it can't be that
100%. Man, I fail all the time, and some people have got an issue with failing, and for me, like, it's a learning curve. It's only really a failure if you keep doing it over and over again.
Exactly.
But if you fuck up and you learn from it, that's actually really cool. It's a gift.
Super important part of success.
Yeah.
Like if you have a smooth run and have success with no failure, it's like, I don't know, you haven't really earned it, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. You need to, I think it gives you more appreciation and that sort of stuff. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While we're talking about your shop, I'm sure your internet skills are better than mine. Any chance you could any chance you could take us on a tour? Because what I've seen on Instagram and stuff, it's a beautiful shop. And so No. Unhook that phone and take us on a big walking tour.
Okay.
And give us a look at, because I can see that's some artwork from Miss Orange that I work with together.
Back here. Hang on, where are we? Yep. Yeah, so got a bunch of stuff here.
Beautiful.
What's up? Got all our stuff. The walls have just started to feel really nice and full now.
Your framer must love you.
What's that?
Your framer, your picture framer must love you.
Yeah, I've sent him a bit of work.
No, don't stop. Go all the way to the front door, please. I know I'm being a bully, but it's such a beautiful shop. We need to see it.
So here's the front door as you come in. So we've got our little where we should have merch over here. What eventually that'll happen.
Yep.
Front counter. And then we've got, so there's 4 stations in the shop.
Yep. Amazing.
And then, yeah, out the back here, we've got a little kitchen and little sterilizer room. Yeah. And the other 2 stations over here.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah,
so
I'm super stoked with how it looks. It's exactly what I envisioned or hoped it would look like.
No, it's so cool. Like I'm very like house proud and shop proud. And you know, you put your heart and soul into it, and it's, you know, sometimes I have weird moments by myself at the shop late at night. I might be half drunk or whatever, going, how the fuck did this happen? You know, and it's nice because you got your head buried so long and you're just working and focusing on all this stuff. It's nice to sometimes kick back and go, wow, this is cool. So,
yeah, those moments, you know, if I'm here late at night, I'm a bit of a frenzy cleaner, so I'll come in and I'll get headphones in, get into a podcast and just clean for ages and have everything. I'm a sucker for organization, so, and then
good.
And then have a moment, I just sit back and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is
yeah. And rightly so. It's an amazing place. So on that note, tell us, because you've got a really cool crew that work with you. Can you talk us through the artists you've got?
Yeah, so there's myself, Connor Wern, who we actually did our apprenticeships together down in Coolangatta.
Oh wow, okay.
Was already tattooing. I think he was tattooing about 6 months when he came down to Cooley.
Yep.
Did our time there together until that shop closed, and then he booted off to Melbourne.
And he worked with Maddie Mooney.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
Yep. Amazing. Yep.
He has, and then, you know, he went to Melbourne, then came back. We worked together at Whiskey. He went back to Melbourne, come and gone, and we just can't seem to get rid of each other. So we're here stuck.
Yep.
Melody Crow started shortly after that. So she's amazing. Does really beautiful, super bright, really feminine stuff as well. And our lady, Charlie Clark, and she does really gorgeous black work, very delicate, feminine florals and stuff like that. So super, have a great crew. Got artists coming in tomorrow actually, which would be cool to have him here over the weekend. That's Jay Kit. He's one of Victory Tattoo up in the sunny coast. So had Jake down. Great to have him back again for a few days. Yeah,
awesome. So it seems cool. Like, you know, your shop's off and running, you got a cool crew, you're getting the guests through. And I think, you know, like I'm right into the tattoo history thing, and by studying, you know, the history of shops that become successful, you're well on your way to doing that, and it'll just continually to evolve. Also, another thing I've realized from the Australian Tattoo History Projects is sometimes if people didn't grow up in an area, they see a lot more maybe opportunity than people that grew up there. So I think you're probably, I can put you in that category, because you see, like, if you grow up somewhere your whole life and you then work there, you don't maybe appreciate it as much. And the Goldie is my dream is to move back there and commute back to Sydney, because I'm too deep into my business here, and try and have the best of both worlds sort of thing. So no, it's good. It's going to be cool to see, you know, your shop evolve over the years.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like I remember thinking that at the start, because I was here by myself for a little while, like quite a few months. It was me every day coming in, just me and my client by ourselves. And it was there was a few moments where I was like, oh, I wish there was some other people. But then I was like, you know what? Enjoy the time by myself, because probably be like that again. Hopefully not. Already just gone through so many little phases, so I'm just really appreciate and fully get the most out of every little phase and change that. And because I know, you know, even if it does feel tough later on, I'll look back at it and I'll be like, yeah, that might have been hard, but that was a good time.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And that's where you get your character and all your, you know, your perseverance from. So your style, so you've got this, like you were mentioning before, this sort of girly, cutesy, colourful female trad style. What's your sort of booking system like these days? Because I noticed on your Instagram, you know, and I look at, as a shop owner, I look at other shop owners, how they run it. You've got, you know, contact your artist directly, which is cool, because I imagine they're all quite busy just off their own name or their own brand.
Yeah, exactly. So we do operate completely as a private studio. So like we don't need signage out the front. We only give out the address, have booked in and stuff like that, because everyone works on their own system. And I know I've never had a shop do my bookings. So I do it because then I'm the one that's talking to the customer. I'm the one that's going through the process. I know what I've got coming in. If it's something that I'm not super comfortable or confident doing, I can pass it on to someone better for it. So I prefer to give my artists here the opportunity to do the same thing. And it's
amazing.
Well for them like that as well. That way they can choose what they prefer to do. My booking system, it's been a bit of a hot mess this year with closures and reschedules the stuff, but I've 3-month booking block seems to work really well. That way I've got an amount of work coming up, not too much where I feel overwhelmed, still short enough time that I can book little camping trips and things away with too much stress like that. So 3 months is that for me.
Yeah, awesome. That's super cool, and that's where I'm glad to see. Like, I come from an era where you just had to work like a machine. You know, you didn't really have an option. Where now tattooing, I think when you reach a certain level of success or bookings or whatever you want to call it, you know, it's one of those jobs that you can create that nice balanced lifestyle, which I think is important.
Yeah, absolutely. It took a little while for me to figure that out, but I feel like I've got a good sort of happy medium with it now. So I know some people love it. They just love, all they want to do is draw, paint and tattoo. I've got a little going on in my personal life, so I try to out a little bit and have a little bit more time away from tattooing to fit in there. But it's a good balance.
Totally, and I think that helps balance out everything into like you know, a well balanced package of, you know, you're not like you were saying, you got your 3 months, you're not stressed out, you can buffer things if you need to, and all the rest of it. So okay, so let's talk a little bit about, I see you're like training on your Instagram page, you're heavily involved in that. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Because I know from what I've worked out, being an Instagram detective, your partner runs CMBT Training Center in Varsity Lakes.
Yeah, that's right. So he's one of the co-owners there. So it's a mixed martial arts gym. That's probably, if I'm not here, if I'm not tattooing, that's generally behind me. So I'm there. Training's a huge part of my life. I started training the same within about 2 months, I think, of getting my apprenticeship.
Oh, wow. So okay, awesome.
Really, like, kind of went hand in hand for me, and they're very similar in a lot of ways. Where like they're both really fucking hard, really stressful, but really as well. So they're both very difficult to master. Again, with the tattooing, it's the same as martial arts. Like, once you think you figured something out, it'll just get stripped away, and you got to
don't get too confident.
But it's a really big part of my life. Just tattooing is. So obviously my partner is so deep into it. It's something we bond together with as well, which is really cool. So spend there at the gym.
Yeah, mate. What a great place! Like it's and you know, gyms in general now like are a much bigger part of society. Like, health in general is very important, especially now with COVID and all the rest of it. But also, you know, when we chatted on the phone, like, you know, tattooing in general, like I was saying, I've got people that work with me that are late 20s to early 30s that have got some back issues and you know, like, I don't want to be an overbearing dad. Oh, maybe you should do something. I'm like, oh no, I just bought this saddle stool, that'll fix me. And I'm like, maybe not. You know, like, you've got to look after your body tattoo wise, because we don't have super, we don't have like pension funds and that sort of stuff. So, you know, have you ever experienced like any body stuff over the years?
definitely. So maybe at the start of the year, I would say even was terrible. Like my back,
Yeah.
there's a couple of slip discs going on,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was really tough because combining, you know, the posture with tattooing alongside with things like jiu-jitsu and wrestling,
Yep.
it's so pressure on your back. And I'm not a huge person, so there's a lot bigger bodies that I'm training
Yep.
with as well, a lot of weight on me and everything like
Yep.
that. So I was struggling with a lot of back pain for a while, and it got to a point where I was like, I kept saying, yeah, I'll do something about it, and I'll train better and stuff like that, and
Yep.
it just wasn't doing it. So then I started doing a lot more strength training,
Yep.
and as well. And now I feel like a completely different person. So if there are times you've got back pain,
Yep.
but I did and say it for ages, like start stretching, start taking care of your body. It really, really does make a difference. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally. Because I think a lot of tattooers can, you know, my generation, it was, and the ones before were like the fast food, just life in the fast lane lifestyle. You can't do that now if you want a long, productive career. You know, like your posture is crucial. And thankfully now, most studios are still tattooing people on, or are not still, but are tattooing people on massage tables, which gives you the opportunity to drop your chair lower, get in underneath it, keep your posture up. Like, you know, don't turn into a hunchback. So yeah, it's an important thing.
That's something I've been trying to sort of just put a little bit more time into. Like I used to just be like, oh, you know, I don't have 2 minutes to change the height of the bed, or I my client in a different position and stuff like that. Now I've really trying to remember. Like sometimes I'll still do, trying to remember, like, you know, if I want to continue doing this for a long time, which I absolutely do, I need to take extra little minutes, change the height, change my seat, change the customer's position, all those sorts of things to make it me, because it's just not, it's horrendous.
It definitely, it pays off in the long run. Like I'm known around the shop to like take sneaky photos of people like all contorted up like the hunchback of Notre Dame, and then send it to them and not say anything.
Like a client, you know how customers will sort of post a photo as you're tattooing them, and then they'll tag me in it and I'll see it. I'm like, oh my God, my back. And we have a stretch coach at our gym, and she'll message me and be like, what the fuck?
Yep.
So if I feel someone get the camera out, I can feel my it's a good reminder. And
totally. It's so good. Like, just to talk about with the gym as well, like I was saying, like one of my oldest friends and one of my best friends growing up, a guy called Dean Arrowsmith in Melbourne, like he's a couple of years older than me, and I used to hang out with all the rat bags in the area. Everyone was starting to get tattooed, and I'd go and watch everyone get tattooed at this shop called Body Language out in Lilydale. I think I went there at 14 the first time. And then I got my first tattoo at 15 with Dean. But his son now, Dre's training. He's an MMA trainer at the gym.
Yeah. So Dre's been training for a little while. I remember they said ages ago, telling my partner that he knows you. So I love it. Everything just seems to come full circle. There's always
100%.
someone. And I think as well with, you know, tattooing is similar to MMA again with, it's such a strong community vibe with the two. If you're in it, you're so passionate about it. There's a lot of links between the two worlds, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's good. So that's what I thought as well. Like you definitely would have had crossover with the gym and tattoo stuff over the years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. With that as well, like, so Dean took me to get my first tattoo, and then I did a leg sleeve on one of his other sons for his first ever tattoo as well. So it's cool. And I'm going to be, when he makes it to the big league, I'm his official sponsor. So it's exciting. Yeah, it's going to be cool. So it's good. So, but also as well, aren't you involved in coaching like younger kids and coaching in general?
Yeah, so my partner and I coach the kids classes. So it's a jiu-jitsu class, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So we coach every Monday. So we have 2 kids classes. We've got our juniors who are 5 to 8.
Cool.
Yeah, and then our senior kids, which is 8 up to like 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, they give us a run for our money, but
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
Mondays are pretty dedicated to the gym, so that's it.
Yeah.
That's a non-day for me, but still kind of a work day.
Yeah.
And every now and then, depending on what time I finish work, some days on a Wednesday, I'll get down there to teach the MMA as well, which is
Yeah.
cool. Like you can just see them, their confidence change and grow so much, and they
Yeah.
get super excited when they can do something now they couldn't do before. So it's super rewarding. It's really
Yeah.
great.
No, that's so cool, and it's nice to, I'm gonna be one of you, give back and all that sort of thing, and but
Yeah.
like you were saying as well, full circle, but just also like just a real good balanced outlook on life as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely it keeps you humble, like
Yeah.
you can't lie when you're
Yeah.
training. You haven't worked for it, then
Yeah.
it'll show. So, and I feel like
Yeah.
tattooing is similar. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely a balance having the two. They just
Yeah.
go so me, definitely.
Yeah. Amazing. So we're probably getting towards the end. So, but Sami, if like you got any, like you mentioned merch on the horizon, like are you into prints and painting, or anyone in your shop got stuff, and what's the best way to buy it and support you guys?
Yeah, definitely want to. I mean, there's some shirts and things that need to be coming up and prints
Yep.
and stuff like that. I won't say when or anything because I'm
Yep.
not sure if people
Yep.
fall.
Here's a little hit. My standard response about merch is, you wouldn't believe it, and this is true, screen printers are booked out for 3 months right now. So I've put the design in. I'm just waiting.
I really wouldn't. I actually only recently did my first run of prints from the last lockdown, and they did really
Hopefully,
well.
please tell me it was from Reaper Reprints.
Of course, of course.
Good, good.
Quality of those, I had to actually
Yep.
triple check a couple of times because I was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna give away my original if I don't be careful with this." So
Yep.
yeah, Josh and I do an amazing job with that. So definitely hit them up for sure when I can get my ass into gear and get some more painting done and get some prints.
Yeah, cool. All right. So any last things you want to say or anything, or what's the best, obviously the best way to book with you or any of the artists that work with you is like direct contact through DMs?
Through their Instagram. Everyone has a slightly different booking system. So whatever artist they want to go for, go through their bio. It has all the info of how to book with everyone. I've got a site that has website forms, which is really good. That way it just, asks you every little question. And don't forget any info and stuff like that. That's pretty much it. I think we covered everything. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. So for me, like, I just want to say thanks as well because, I try and keep up to date as much as I can and see, great studios, and obviously yours is one of them. But, I work with a guy called Cole Dawson, who's originally from Dubbo, and he mentioned to me that, you should reach out to Sami. And then not long after that, I started getting other people going, hey, Sami's one to interview on the Gold Coast. So it's been really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I think you're doing an amazing job. It's really cool to be listening back to some of the ones that you've already done. So yeah, you're doing a great job.
It's been, thank you. It's been a great project. And next time I'm up visiting my mum, I'll come say hi.
Hell yeah.
And my dad.
Awesome. We'd love to have you in.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks so much, Sami. I love your work and massive respect. See you when I see you.
Legend. Thanks so much. Take
See
care.
ya.
Bye.